Nitro 8.1. So we got 2D arrays. We need to have an updateValue method, which they give us the signature for. We just have to actually instantiate it, meaning write the code for it. And then we also have to call it 3 times. And then, so first thing we got to do is when we were doing the updateValue, we have this array already. So we're going to access the array with a given row and column number and reset that to be the value. This is a void method, so it doesn't return anything. And that is that's basically it. When we call this thing, they give us this example here. So who am I to pass up a free value? And they've got this note that they want you to use this sort of notation for the column number. And then go from there. I don't think they really care about how you call this for the other two. It's not like they were trying to get a specific thing. So let's say that we wanted to take row 1, column 0, and then we'll set it to be, is there a specific? Oh, hold on. I need to read what they want. First element in each array is incorrect. The last element is incorrect. Okay, so then we need to change it to the correct value. All right, now I'm reading it better. So for row 0, we're going to go through. In the first array, the final value should be the length of the 2D array. So the value here is going to be the length of the total array, which would just be array.length because we're dealing with static arrays. In other words, the square brackets, so we can use the length property. For the second one, we need to go to, we're going to go to row 1. We're going to go to the end of this one. So we do array row 1, which is this, this nested array, the length -1. And then that is supposed to be set for the sum of the lengths of the rows. And so we probably want to make a value for that. Actually, we could just do this. We're just going to hard code this. First, anything longer than 3, I would probably make a loop to do this. But we're just grabbing the lengths of each of the 3 rows of this thing. So we access each row in turn and then add the lengths up there. The line is too long, so I'm going to go ahead and do a little extender. Don't forget my semicolon. And then finally, we got to call updateValue one more time on our array. And again, we're doing array row 2, length -1, and it tells us in the third array, the final value should be the sum of the first and last values in the 2D array. Okay. So that would be array 0, 0 is our first value in our 2D array, plus, and then we need to get the last value. So we would do, we're going to use row 2, and then they want us to do this. I'm going to actually make some local variables to make this just a wee bit more readable. So I'm going to call this A0 length. Actually, we just really need A2 length. I'm going to call this actually A2 last. It's going to be the index of our last one. So we'll do A2 last. And then we're going to set it to the value at A2 last. Okay. Could have done this all nested. It gets kind of hairy. So I think that's it. Let's try it. First we run it. We should be replacing the 3 zeros at the end of each line. Illegal start because I have a comma somewhere that I should not have a comma. So actually the issue is that I deleted this earlier, so I need to put that back down there. And this should be array 0. And then let's run that. Okay, it does not like using val because it's called value on line 20. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's check it. Alright, there it is. Moving on to 8.1.6. So on this one, we're going to be making a chessboard. And this is going to be an array of strings. So we're going to make a string array of 2 dimensions. So we put 2 sets of empty curly braces. Use the new keyword. And then we're making an array of strings again. So after new, we're going to put string, and then we specify the number. We know chessboards are always 8 by 8. And then we need to go through and actually... Oh, I didn't specify a name, so we've got to call this something. So we're going to call it chess. And then it's going to get printed down there. Easy enough. So now we have to actually go through and populate this thing. So we can do this manually. We can say that row 0 of our chess array is going to be this array of... we're specifying values manually. I just copied those names over. And then one trick I can use here is if you select a word and then press the quotes, it'll throw that word into quotes because these are all strings. And then I just need to go back and add the commas. And this I could do with the keyboard, but honestly, I think it might be faster this way. All right, so there's our first row. I've got too many curly braces. I should have one set of curly braces here because I'm only putting in one row at a time. Now I'm going to do the same thing on row 7. It slightly bothers me that they don't flip the queens and the kings, but that's fine. Okay, then we also need to populate the pawns. I could do this manually. I could also do this with a for loop. So let's do it. Kind of your call which way you want to do this. So we're going to go have a for loop that represents our row number. I've sometimes seen them use R for the loop variable when you're dealing with row and C for column, which I kind of like. So let's do that. R for row here, just to kind of keep it straight in our own mind. So if I were to go through, this would be doing one row at a time. And then I'm going to do a nested for loop. Now you could, by the way, totally do this all manually. I'm going to do J by default. We'll do column. You could do this all manually if you wanted. But I'm going to instead do it this way. Okay, now I need to either put in the word pawn on rows 1 and 6, and I'm going to put dashes the rest of the time. So we'll do if r is equal to 1 or r equals 6, then we would do that the chessboard at the row and the column number gets the word pawn. And then we're going to say else, and then chess row column would instead get just a dash. Now one reasonably could have just done this all with copy pasting and adding a whole bunch of quotes and commas, but I think this is a little bit better in terms of making it all fancy-like. Notice I'm only doing one thing on this else, so I don't put curly braces around it. That is an option you always have. I like to do it on the same line to make it a little easier to read. So we'll run that, and it doesn't like something I did. Specifically, it doesn't like lots of what I did. Illegal start of expression on the word knight. So I've got my array here where I'm manually putting in my 8 strings, and the commas seem fine. What doesn't it like? Huh. What does it not like here? Formatting is what it doesn't like. Is that right? You have to put 2 curly braces around it? I don't know. Then line 8, illegal start of expression. Okay. Well, let me think about how else we could do this. We could just manually make the whole darn thing. That seems kind of silly. We could also make an array of pieces. I think this is a memory management problem. So if we make this an array of pieces, like so, now this is what I'm going to do. Will work, but it may have unintended consequences depending on how you do things. So this is basically making both of these rows reference the same row here. So if I change anything about my pieces array, then that would actually cause it to break. This should pass the test because I've made the board they want, but just be aware there may be some unintended consequences. Like, for instance, if I moved the knight, then that would affect both of these. So heads up on that. You could also manually make this, and maybe that's a better solution. I don't know. Okay, now so here we're trying to just make a 3x3 board of dashes. And this is going to be a 2D array of strings, so we're going to call it board. And so here's the really easy way to do this. I'm going to actually bring this down to new lines just to make it a little more readable. So here's the solution that if I were actually doing this and not just doing it for an exercise, this is almost certainly how I would do this. I would just manually set the 3 rows because it's small enough. Doing that manually makes sense. And then they also want a getter to return our instance variable. So then I would, sorry, I forgot to specify this is an instance variable, so I should make it private. And because it is private, that means we need a getter to get it, so we'll call it getBoard. No parameters. It's going to return a 2-dimensional array of strings. And literally we just return our variable board. Now, if I run this is going to work. Except that I have a small error on something expected. Oh, I didn't put my semicolon. Duh. Okay, so this is fine. It works. It probably will fail the test. Oh, it doesn't even passes the test. Unfortunately, they specifically want the constructor to initialize it, not to do it when you declare the variable here. Which is kind of annoying, because this will actually kind of give us a little bit of insight into how this works. So if I move this portion, I'm going to copy that, and then I'm just going to move. So I'm going to declare my instance variable there, and then I'm just going to literally do the exact same thing in our constructor, and it seems like that should be fine. And it breaks. Illegal start of expression. This has to do with how Java manages their variables, its variables. So when you declare the board here, if you give it the values right away, it'll know to allocate a 3x3 array space in memory, and it's fine. But because we didn't do that, it's like, okay, well, I know I've got a pointer to an array, a 2-dimensional array of strings, but then when I try and initialize it later, it doesn't know how much memory to allocate because we've already created the variable. It's a slightly annoying feature of how Java handles arrays. There are some solutions for this. Unfortunately, they're kind of tacky. So here is the workaround that I found that I think works really well, or at least reasonably well. So I'm going to make another variable, a string, a 2-dimensional string that I'm going to call temp. Actually, I'm just going to call it board, because we're going to use a little trick that we've seen before. So I'm making a local variable to store the board, and then I'm going to set my instance variable board. So I do this.board. I'm going to set it to be this local variable that I just made, and that will once again work. It's slightly annoying, slightly more complicated than just having it than initializing your instance variable when you first declare it, but that is kind of the solution with how they've described it in the assignment here.